Brand strategy has two parts. One, the strategy, and two, the guidelines. We're going to focus on brand guidelines, and we're going to break down the elements you need in your one with these examples from Burger King, Coca-Cola, Spotify, McDonald's, Facebook, Apple, and Dubai. Brand guidelines tell us how the strategy comes to life. They differ most dramatically depending on two factors: the size of the company and where it stands in the industry. The basic elements of a brand guideline will cover the logo, typography, tone of voice, and colors of the brand. However, the scope of the brand strategy to impact a company can also become a lot bigger, so the brand guidelines will follow. It can dictate what the store looks like, where they are located, when partnering with other organizations, what values are they looking for, what events do they sponsor. It can even have an impact on internal communication and human resource decisions, like what do we look for in hires and what values do they share that we want to be about. Brand guidelines, also known as the brand book, is the company's rule book when it comes to its brand identity. It provides a blueprint and shows us how the audience should perceive the brand. Often used interchangeably with a brand style guide, brand guidelines carry a more comprehensive guide on how the company's branding should be expressed, including brand purpose, story, mission, vision, style and design guide, positioning, verbal identity, tone of voice, and finally, brand messaging and communications. To learn how you could create your own brand book, let's break down some examples. Let's start with Burger King. This is an example of a very comprehensive guide, which covers sections such as the brand story, verbal identity, logo usage, color palettes, signature lockups, typography, and even how not to use their brand assets. It heavily focuses on design strategy, with the goal to make their brand and food even more craveable in the eyes of their target consumers. This is supported by going over the four main principles of design. The main objectives of their brand guidelines is for a consistent customer experience from restaurant to digital spaces. This format is perfect for Burger King and food companies with hundreds of franchises all over the world and rely heavily on visuals to promote their product. Our next example is from Coca-Cola. With a brand that most of us know just by looking at its bottle contour and silhouette, Coca-Cola's brand guidelines iterate the power of its iconic, recognizable, and consistent branding throughout its 130-year evolution. As stated in the document The World's Greatest Icon Elevated, the Coca-Cola brand guidelines demonstrate specific instructions of its design system for a cohesive identity, namely what their products should look like and how to best present them, logo scaling, colors, and layout restraints. It also illustrates their logo design elements in detail: the script, the palette, the typeface, the disc, the ribbon, the contour bottle icon, the ardent square, voice, and the trademark square. Our third brand guidelines example is from Spotify. Being one of the top streaming platforms globally, Spotify aims to have a consistent app user experience across the board for its listeners. It's a pretty straightforward document with the basic elements to illustrate the brand, logo type, colors, and tone of voice in partner messaging. Spotify clearly shows how they want to visualize their commitment to the brand role as stated, getting consumers the right music for every moment. Another example from the fast food category is McDonald's. Its brand guidelines can also be seen as a design cheat sheet of its identity. On-print images, restaurants, and consumer lifestyle. McDonald's also heavily relies on its visual brand assets: the golden arches, its official colors, McDonald's Gold and McDonald's Red, typography, food and lifestyle photography, patterns and illustrations, and lastly, restaurant design. The goal of this cheat sheet is to create a feel-good identity that should be consistently perceived by their customers all around the world. Our fifth example is from the social networking platform, Facebook. User interface is a big part of their brand guidelines, including general rules on their brand assets and showcasing the platform's content. This is mainly because Facebook partners with thousands of organizations, businesses, in addition to millions of users globally. So, to maintain consistency and recognizability, their guidelines give specific instructions and approved ways to use the brand assets, and the message that comes along with them. Do's and don'ts are very critical in their brand rulebook. It also includes steps on requesting permission on brand assets, user interface templates, and answers to frequently asked questions, having marketers, books, plays, TV shows, and film script writers, and people dealing with print packaging in mind. moving on, let's break down the brand guidelines from Apple. This is another great example of a well-executed brand strategy. For many years, the bitten apple represents the Apple identity as a seal of approval and a promise of excellence to its customers. The company calls its brand book the Apple Identity Guidelines, made specifically for channel affiliates and Apple-certified individuals, including Apple-authorized resellers and representatives like Amazon, Best Buy, and Adorama. They also list rules on how brand assets must be used for their sales websites, channel signatures, reseller store identity, and editorial guidelines, ensuring the Apple identity is protected and consistently established. Our seventh and final example is from Dubai. Created by the government of Dubai and Dubai's economy and tourism, these guideline objectives follows. As the city of Dubai grows to match the vision of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, UAE's Vice President, Prime Minister and ruler of Dubai, it is increasingly important to maintain a consistent identity throughout communication. Dubai's guidelines provide direction on how to present the Dubai's brand's look and feel across all marketing and operational material. Brand foundations, brand marks, typography, color palettes, brand usage, applications, iconography, social media, visual content, tone of voice, events, merchandise, partnerships, and lastly, terms of use. The Strategy Finishing School has a full chapter on brand strategy. If you're interested in joining 4,000 members in the school, make sure to check out the links in the description below. For a more in-depth look at how brands use assets to be distinct from their competitors, check out my video, What Are Distinctive Brand Assets by Byron Sharp, How Brands Grow. It's a sneak peek into one of the most influential books in modern marketing, with examples from KFC, BMW, and Avis. This book definitely blew my mind.